Chapter 16 is looking at social change in both modern and postmodern societies. And I want to begin by giving you a definition of social change. It is transformation of culture and social institutions over time. Um, Class, I want to say that social change happens all the time. It is universal. It may or may not be predictable. It is not synonymous with progress, and it's not always controllable. Okay, sometimes we can control social change, and sometimes we can't. There is a difference between endogenous forces and exogenous forces. Endogenous forces are results from social forces building within a society, such as the Great Depression, the legalization of abortion, the Social Security Act, and we can go on and on and on with different things that have occurred in our society. Exogenous forces is forces for change that is exerted from the outside, such as World War II in Europe and Asia. There are many major causes of social change, and war is probably the most powerful and most pervasive force that produces social change at every level of society. Casualties and conquest are the major ecological effects of war. War accounts for extraordinary and rapid declines in the population. When millions of soldiers are killed, entire populations are unbalanced for more than a generation. There are also labor shortages, economic disarray due to the loss of so many skilled workers, and the impact of war can also be seen in the damage done to the minds and bodies of the survivors. In addition to the thousands who are maimed and mutilated, thousands suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, in which the shock of war continues to haunt the victim. And then you have others that experience survivor guilt, which is a feeling of shame that many survivors feel because they escaped the fate of their comrades. Some more changes are causes of social change, certainly changes in the ecology. Class, we have the greenhouse effect, which is expected to alter the distribution of productive farmland by the mid-21st century. The Midwest, we're predicting that it's going to become a desert. It's going to become colder in the north. So we can certainly expect many social changes that will result from this environmental change. As far as global warming, it is causing a rise in sea level. Eventually, this may force some communities to relocate. The polar ice caps are melting. Many animals and plant species are certainly becoming extinct. And class, what causes the greenhouse effect is the burning of fossil fuels that allow sunlight to enter the Earth's atmosphere freely, but it inhibits the release of heat. As a result also of the burning of fossil fuels, it has created acid rain. Acid rain is a combination of two pollutants. We've got sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, which forms nitric acid in the atmosphere, and it returns to Earth in rain or snow. And in the United States, about 40% of our rivers or our lakes and our waters are so polluted that fish can no longer survive. Some more causes of social change, certainly discoveries, inventions. Think about the car and the plane, not to mention the indoor plumbing and how it's changed social life. Electricity, I think, is the greatest invention there ever has been. How does life change during an extended power failure? And thinking about a computer, they've made a more individualistic society possible. People can remain at home and earn their livings by telecommunications and never even leave the house. Diffusion, make sure you know this is a spread of an invention or discovery from one area to another. Conflict and change, certainly social conflict arising from inequality forces changes in every society. We've got ideas and change. Certainly ideas can fuel social movements which bring about social change. Demographical changes. We talked about demographic or population changes in another chapter, but looking at some of the changes that have altered our modern society does include a decrease in the death rate. Medical technology and public health improvements have significantly changed the life expectancy in most societies, which has caused a population explosion and increased the number of older people. A decrease in the birth rate is another way population changes has altered modern society. This has caused a decrease of young people. Somewhere down the road, it's going to affect Social Security because we are a pay-as-you-go system, and there's not going to be enough people in the working population to take care of that large number of elderly people. Think about how migration has brought different cultures into contact with one another, certainly spreading the ideas of one culture to another. Looking at collective behavior, collective behavior is activity that involves a large number of people that is unplanned, often controversial, and sometimes dangerous. So it does refer to spontaneous, unstructured behavior of a group of people in response to a specific event, such as a panic, a riot, crowds, fads, fashions, and we can go on with those. Crowds, there are many different types of crowds. A crowd is just a large number of people who are gathered together in close proximity to one another. There are four types of crowds. We have a casual crowd, such as a street gathering. We have a conventional crowd, which is gathered for a specific purpose, such as individuals attending a lecture or a movie. We have an expressive crowd, and of course we have acting crowds. And of course in acting crowds, the characteristics of crowd behavior does occur in an extreme form. Mobs are groups that are emotionally aroused and they're ready to engage in violent behavior. They are generally short-lived, but they are very highly unstable. And riots are collective actions involving mass violence and mob actions. I'm going to skip over rumors. Fads and fashions are mass behaviors that large numbers of people participate in for a brief period of time. A fad is a superficial or a trivial behavior that's very popular for a short time, such as hula hoops, Cabbage Patch dolls, streaking, disco dancing. A fashion is a temporary trend in some aspect of appearance or behavior. And of course, I want to say that fashions are usually more long-lasting than fads. Now, class, we want to look at social movements for just a few minutes. They are organized collective efforts to bring about social change and establish a new order of social thought and action. Social movements are long-lasting, they're more organized and wider in scope. And there are many, many different types of social movements. There is two that I mainly want you to focus on, and that is the reformative, which is wanting limited social change, but they target everyone. Some examples, class, would be the civil rights movement, the feminist movement, the environmental movement. We've had a lot of reformist movements, okay, if you will, in the United States. And then I want you to know the redemptive social movement. They are selective in focus, but they want radical change, such as Alcoholics Anonymous. That certainly is a redemptive movement. They want to help individuals redeem their lives. There are two theories that try to explain why social movements develop. We have what is known as deprivation theory, and we have culture theory, and there's others, but these are just the two that you need to know. Deprivation theory, this is a theory that social movements arise because people feel deprived of something, okay? They may feel deprived of safety working conditions, equal pay, whatever the situation may be. But they feel like they lack the things that other people seem to have. And then culture theory, this is the theory that social movements arise around symbols. To give you an example, class, the Rodney King beating out in California caused one of the largest racial riots in our history. Certainly, what happened on September the 11th mobilized people to support the Iraq War, okay, if you will. And we can think of more and more type of symbols that has certainly brought about social change. Now, as social movements develop, they generally go through 4 distinct stages. Stage 1 is the emergent stage. This is characterized by agitation, a lot of unfocused restlessness, increasing disorder. And as those rumors get out that there's some kind of dissatisfaction in society, people become increasingly susceptible to the appeals of agitators. Then we move into stage 2, which is coalescence. This is more or less the popular excitement stage. It's during this period that the unrest is brought into the open. People with similar concerns begin to openly express their anger and restlessness. And then the group begins to acquire collective identity, and they have leaders that help define and justify their feelings. Stage 3 is bureaucratization. This is more or less a formalization of things. A formal structure is developed, rules and policies and tactics are laid out. It's during this stage that the movement becomes integrated into society. So at this stage, all the unrest, discontent, and popular excitement has largely ceased, and it's been replaced by organized groups and structured activities. Then stage 4 is decline. And class, I want to say that social movements decline for many reasons. It could be that the goals have been met. Maybe they've met opposition. Maybe the members have lost interest. But anyway, make sure you know these 4 stages in order. Make sure you know what's going on at each stage. Here are some more things that can certainly bring about social change, and of course unexpected social change. Class, we have natural disasters, if you will, such as droughts, increasing cold weather, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, forest fires. We can all think of some things that certainly can precipitate sudden changes in our society. Technical or technological disasters like oil spills, industrial accidents, intentional disasters like war, terrorist attacks, and genocide. So looking at some conclusions about the consequences of disasters. Disasters are certainly social disruptions. Social damage is more serious when an event involves a toxic substance, and social damage is most serious when the disaster is caused by others.